Welcome back to IPL Radio, and that's Maroon 5, Moves Like Jagger. And we have a very special guest in the studio today, Mr. Les Hayward. Welcome.
G'day, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for joining us on our show on IPL Radio today.
That's fine, thanks. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem at all. So you are a financial planner.
I am.
And you were born in Safety Bay?
I was, actually, yeah.
Yeah?
Grew up in Safety Bay on June Road.
A good old Rocco
Many,
boy,
many
June
years.
Road. Yeah,
Yep.
very, very famous Safety Bay Road, that one.
Yep.
And you've been doing this for a very long time now as a financial planner, and you are back in Rockingham after your trip around Australia, and you are running a financial seminar on Thursday the 2nd of December from 6 p.m. for retirees.
That's correct, yeah. It's our Retire and Thrive seminar.
Retire and Thrive, that's a good name. So who is it for? Exactly.
So basically, it's for anyone that's either pre-retirees, as in anyone that's within 3 to 5 years of retirement, or those who've already retired. But mostly it's for people who really want to understand, I guess, the three things: the economic environment that we're heading into over the next 3 to 5 years, understanding Centrelink and the myriad of rules and things that you need to be aware of there, and being able to maximise your entitlements from Centrelink. Many people, when they go on the age pension, don't always understand everything that they're entitled to. And the third thing is retirement's not actually just about money. It's about the third phase of your life. And we've got a very important guest who's going to be providing us with information on her newly released program called Don't Just Retire But Thrive, and that goes through the 6 areas of retirement that you need to really be aware of. That doesn't include money.
Sounds fantastic. So what is the predicted financial outlook for the next few years? I keep hearing the word inflation coming up a lot at the moment.
Definitely.
What's your prognosis?
Definitely. Look, inflation is a very important thing because it does drive a lot of the other economic factors such as your interest rates and so on. It impacts on wages, it impacts on the ability for people to buy and sell goods, etc. So what we're seeing internationally is quite a large rise in inflation. The US is sitting somewhere around 6% at the moment. Europe's somewhere around 3 to 5% as well.
Sure.
And Australia is sitting at around 3%. But inflation is a really difficult beast to understand sometimes because there's underlying inflation and then there's headline inflation. So there are 2 different types. And what we're seeing here in Australia right now is we're seeing fuel, particularly in WA and the rest of the country, it's quite high. We hit $2 recently, which is absolutely huge. And of course, we've got restrictions in things like shipping containers, even pallets for people to put stuff on and then put on a bus or a train or a truck. There's not enough of those around.
That's one thing I have noticed. Empty shipping containers have doubled in value in the last month.
Yeah. And the cost of transport obviously is doubling, and then you add that to the cost of fuel, and then things are becoming very, very expensive. We've also got some localised issues at the moment with strikes on wharves, and that's stopping shipping coming particularly to WA. So all of this combined feeds into inflation, and it feeds into a little bit of a concerning future because obviously as inflation starts to increase, then interest rates will also start to increase. That's the blunt lever that the Reserve Bank can use to try and reduce or keep them under control.
Yeah, sure.
So what is it all about?
So the seminar is really about 3 things. We're going to be providing a detailed economic update, as we've just mentioned. Then we've also got a fellow by the name of Mark Dias, who's the State Manager for Challenger. They are a large provider of retirement products in the Australian market, and he's going to talk about Centrelink and the age pension, the income and asset tests, which are the 2 tests that you need to meet to get a pension, and he's going to talk about how that all works. In particular, he's also going to talk about how you can maximise your benefits, what are the things you can do prior to retirement and in retirement to make sure you're getting the maximum benefits, but also making sure you might be able to get eligible for what we call the Commonwealth Seniors Healthcare Card, which can also help with medical costs and so on. Not everyone really understands how they work.
Still involve like bills and things like that as well. I know that some, obviously not age pension, but there is things that you can do to minimise your like electricity, things like that. So is that still involved?
Correct. There are some. There's 2. There's a few different things. There's the state government pensioners concessions that you can get that can help with things like rates, water rates, council rates, bus trips, things like that. And then there's the Commonwealth Seniors Healthcare Card, which is focused mostly on healthcare, and that's where you can get reduced healthcare costs and reduced costs for scripts and etc. But there are income limits and asset limits that you need to be under.
I'm actually a holder of a pension card, and it is very useful. The state government puts money into my Synergy account quite often. Every now and then the federal government does as well. And big discount on the rates. So it's very, very useful tool.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. The third part of and the really exciting part of the seminar, not to say that the first two aren't exciting, but the third part of the seminar is we have a lady by the name of Jane Edge, who is the owner and creator of the Retire and Thrive program. And she's a 35-year professional in HR and retirement consulting. And she's going to provide with us or talk to us about her newly launched program. It's been launched just recently in Australia, but firstly here in WA. And the program is a 6-stage online program for pre-retirees and those who are newly retired. And it focuses on the 6 key areas that you need to focus on to ensure that you don't just retire but you thrive. So it's about addressing 6 key areas that people don't normally focus on, and of course most people focus on the pension or money, but she covers things like how you're going to continue to maintain your purpose in retirement, how do you maintain your existing and build new connections with people, because when people retire they lose, or when they leave work, they lose a very big part of their lives, and in particular for males, often it's very, very much our identity is our job.
Sure.
So when we leave that work, we lose all those friendships if we don't keep them up and keep the connections happening. It's also how to deal with the massive mental and emotional changes that retirement can bring, and that, as I mentioned, that loss of identity. How to transition your focus, and how to transition your passions. So a lot of people, again, if they're working, their work has been their passion. What's next? That's the key. And then how do you cope and change and develop flexibility for those things out of your control, such as changes in your health, finance, changes in relationships even. So we like to talk to people about retirement being the third stage of their life. A lot of people think retirement is just people sitting around reading the paper and watching the world go by, but we don't agree with that. We think that retirement is the most exciting part of your life,
and it should be.
Oh, absolutely. Well, there's 3 reasons for that. There's, first of all, you've got no kids, but you've got grandkids.
Sure.
So that's a pleasure. That's a joy. You're not having although having kids is fantastic, it does come with a lot of stress. The third thing is you've got no work, but you've got lots to do. So there is no pressure, hopefully no pressure of a mortgage and no pressure of a boss and no pressure of having to do these deadlines. You get to choose what it is that you want to do. So that's really exciting in retirement. And hopefully, finally, there's no stress, but there are things to tick off the bucket list. So for people who have always wanted to do that but haven't had the time, retirement is that time. Retirement is the time to choose the things you want to do and not do the things you have to do.
You make some excellent points there, and I've met some retirees recently, and they've confirmed what you said. They said they're busier now than they've ever been, having full-time job, kids, everything, they're busier now.
Absolutely. I've got quite a few retirement clients, and it is very difficult to lock them in to see them because they're always off doing something. They're very, very active and very lively, which is wonderful. It's exactly how it should be.
Sure, you've got to keep active. Now, on a personal note, Les, in 2013 and 2017, your practice was awarded the prestigious Elders Financial Planning Practice of the Year Award. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. You've done your research. That's interesting. Yeah. Look, basically, that's within the dealer group that I was part of until last year, Elders Financial Planning. I'm now part of the dealer group that owned Elders Financial Planning. We won the Practice of the Year Award, which was fantastic. It was a great honour. Effectively, that was a system where we were assessed against a whole bunch of criteria, and we were then awarded the award for being the best practice for that particular year.
What do you think gave you the edge over the competitors to win those awards?
Oh, look, definitely my team, my staff. I've got a great team of people who work with me, and I guess we're a little different to a lot of financial planners. We really are. We don't want a huge business. We keep the business reasonable in size so that we can give adequate time to every client, and we really do care about the client. A lot of our clients ultimately become friends, but we work with them to achieve their goals and their dreams, and we're part of that journey.
Excellent.
And I guess that was part of that was recognised.
Well, congratulations on those awards.
Thank you.
Hopefully many more to come.
Well, I hope so.
So you were also president and vice president on several occasions. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
In terms of bridging the gap?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, one of my other, I guess, in my other life, I'm actually currently the chair of Bridging the Gap, which is a local Rockingham Quinnan charity. Yep. Bridging the Gap's been going for about 36 years.
Wow.
We're about 3 years off our 40th year. And it's basically a employment and training organisation. So for 35 years, we've been helping people get the skills that they need to get a job, helping them to improve their confidence, helping them to gather the skills, be it resume writing, be it interview skills, be it just confidence, be it business certificate 3 in business, etc. Giving them the skills to go out there and be able to go to an employer and get the job that they're looking for. So we do lots of different training. In the past we've done work for the Dole. We've done Green Army when that was around many years ago. We currently do employability skills training, and we have several other programs that are helping disadvantaged people.
Is that for people in any age range, or is that just for retirees?
No, absolutely. Bridging the Gap will help anyone from effectively 16 up to 70. If they're looking to improve their ability to get a job and to improve their skills, or if they need help in various areas of their life, that revolves around getting a job and etc. We'll help them.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, I do remember I went into Bridging the Gap one time and they helped me write up a resume and they're fantastic.
Yeah,
Is it
no,
still
they're great
located
team.
in Rockingham?
We actually have, we're in several sites. We're in Mandurah, Rockingham, Kwinana, we're in Armidale, we were in Fremantle. We just opened a new Mandurah office just recently, and if all goes well, hopefully we'll be expanding into the southwest as well.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, provide some great services at Bridging the Gap. And, like you said, Monique, you went and got a free resume made up. We have a professional resume writer here, and she charges over $300 per resume. So that just puts that into perspective.
Yeah, it really does. And it was all free of charge for myself because I went through Centrelink, which was really, really helpful. And I ended up walking out with a nicely written up professional resume. I gave them all of my skills and the achievements and certificates that I have had, and they were really great help.
And now you work here.
And now I work here.
There you go. So you got you a great job.
Yes, I love it.
Yep.
So early in your career, you were in the army, Les.
I was.
What inspired you to leave the army and become a financial consultant?
I guess it was circumstance. I joined the army when I was 17, and obviously when you're in the army, you do lots of exciting things. I went through to the Defence Academy in Canberra, and whilst I was there, I actually had an accident, parachuting accident, hurt my knee.
Oh,
well, it wasn't at the time. It was pretty frightening. But once I did that, I spent another couple of years there. But basically, they said, look, if you're going to stay in the army, you're going to have to fly a desk. And I decided that I didn't really want to do that. So I chose to leave the army at that stage. So I spent 4.5 years in the army back then.
Oh, fantastic. So just to recap, you are running a seminar on Thursday, the 2nd of December, not that far away, from 6 p.m. And starting at 6:15 at the Gary Holland Centre.
That's correct. Yep,
yes,
that's correct. And if you'd like to attend, we have 20 places left. It is limited to 50 places, so we have 30 already filled. The quickest way to do that is to jump onto Eventbrite and search for Retire and Thrive seminar for Prosperity Wealth Management, and you'll be able to register through the Eventbrite. It's totally free. It doesn't cost you anything to register, and that will start the process, and we'll be in contact after that.
Great. Now, while we've got you here, Les, perhaps you could give us a bit of advice, let's say, for a 20-year-old, a 40-year-old, and a 60-year-old. Financial, just briefly, just quickly. All right, so let's start with a 20-year-old.
Okay, so for a 20-year-old, the big thing to watch is not getting into too much debt. So there's a lot of these pay now, buy later.
Sure, afterpay, all these things.
Zip, yep, they are a trap. So it used to be credit cards, but credit cards are obviously difficult for people to get. But we just say to people, be very, very careful, because that will follow you the rest of your life if you make a mistake. So be very disciplined. Don't take more than, say, $500 if they offer you $2,000 or $3,000. Take the least that you need, and be very, very diligent, because right now they do track everything that you do in terms of repayments. So if you miss a repayment, it will affect your credit record.
Absolutely does.
I wish I met you earlier.
And it was the same when we were young. We had things like AGC finance and things like that. It's all just gone full circle, really.
Absolutely.
Hasn't it?
And the other thing is be engaged. Be engaged with your superannuation. Every person at age 20, if you're working, you will have a superannuation fund that will be paid on the money you earn from January this year, from zero, from any dollar that you earn. It started at $450. You'll get superannuation on every dollar you earn, and that is amazing, because the average 20-year-old today who keeps paying super for most of their life, their working life, will most likely retire with at least $700,000 to $800,000 in their superannuation.
Very nice.
So be engaged, and don't. It is your money. Remember that it is your money. Don't be worried that it's far away. Be engaged.
That's right. Okay, so let's move on to, say, a 40-year-old married person with kids.
Yep. Well, generally, for most 40-year-olds, it's usually about the mortgage. If they haven't got one, they're saving for one. If they've got one, they're trying to pay it down. So it's about keeping your expenses in check and making sure that you're paying down all your non-deductible debt. And it's about living within your means as well.
Sure.
As I mentioned before, these other proliferation of these pay now accounts make it quite easy to live beyond your means, and it's a lot easier than a credit card because there's less checks and balances on it, and you can get up to $20,000-$30,000 on some of these. So you've got to again live within your means, focus on the non-deductible debt, and the other thing would be to also put a little bit away for the kids' education. So there are various things you can do there, be it a savings account or a bond or some description of an education bond, but it's about putting a little bit away today so that when they're in year 10, 11 and 12, the burden of those years is less.
Yeah, great. Okay. So a 60-year-old person, maybe 5 years to retirement, what advice would you give that person?
Well, the first thing I would say is if you haven't started planning for it, start planning now. At age 60, if you're paid monthly, you only have 60 pays left until age 65. 60.
That's a good way to look at it.
Exactly right. Now, if you paid fortnightly, that's 120. If you haven't yet paid off your mortgage or you haven't yet got enough money in super, you've only got that many pays to do it. So you really need to start planning. So that means that making sure that you have paid off your mortgage, making sure that you, as always, keep your expenses in check, don't live beyond your means. But the third thing is building your superannuation as much as possible. There are lots of other different investments you can have. Lots of people have investment properties, lots of people have shares, etc. But superannuation is by far the most tax effective of all of those investments because the tax is concessionally taxed within the super fund. And at age 60, you only really have 5 or 7 years to go until you can actually get your superannuation. In fact, from age 60 or from age 57 for most people, you can actually access some of your superannuation. So there is a way of doing that called a transition to retirement pension. But for most people, they won't access their superannuation until 67. So they need to be planning for what they want, planning to make sure that any large purchases that they are planning are included. So cars, replacement of cars and things. Obviously, it's important. A lot of people have caravans at that age. Making sure that they have those, under control and paid off.
Yep.
And again, it's just living within your means and planning forward.
So my granddad bought a house with, or put a deposit down with his superannuation. Would you advise against that, or?
When you say he put a deposit down?
So he bought a house in Mandurah and he used his superannuation to pay for the deposit for the house.
Okay, so does he plan on living in that house?
Yeah, he lives in the house and he's been renovating it.
Okay, so that's actually not really able to be done.
Oh.
You generally, with superannuation assets, there is a thing called the sole purpose test.
Yep.
And that sole purpose test says that you must use those assets solely for the provision of retirement income. And then there is also rules around personal use of those assets. So, for example, you can buy an office building in your self-managed super fund if you have one, and you can then your company can rent that office off the superannuation fund.
Yep.
But when it comes to residential property, if you buy a residential property, you can't have people. Friends or family are not able to use that asset. So you might want him to double check the rules there.
Because he had to apply for something and I don't know what that was, but he's in there now.
the problem will be when the auditor comes in and has a look at what those assets are and what they're being used for. That can be a bit of a problem.
Well, Monique, it sounds like your grandfather should get on down Thursday the 2nd of December at 6 p.m. and catch the seminar.
I think I'm going to have to give him some advice myself and tell him to do the exact same thing.
I think so.
We'd be happy to help him.
Well, thanks very much for coming in for the interview today, Les.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure having you on IPL Radio.
Thank you very
hopefully we'll see you again soon. Do you have email or contact or anything like that for people that are looking for a financial advisor?
Absolutely. You can get us on our toll-free number, which is 1300 667 775. That's 1300 667 775.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Thank you.